Hey guys, and welcome to the Surge Growth Partner Podcast. Excited to have our guest today, Reginald Andre. We'll be diving into his story, what his company Ark Solvers specialize in, and some engaging insights into the cybersecurity industry. So I'll go ahead and kick it off to you, Andre. Could you please introduce yourself and tell a quick snippet of your story and your background prior to starting Ark Solvers?
Yeah, thank you so much, Alessandro, for having me today. So I started off, I don't know if you guys remember CompUSA.
Not sure. Not sure if I
Okay.
remember.
So CompUSA back in days was like a electronics store, like kind of like a Best Buy. People would come and buy hard drives and, build their servers and things like that prior to the internet and things like that. So I was going to school actually to become an English teacher, but my side job was working at CompUSA. And one day this guy comes in and he purchases, shopping cart after shopping cart after shopping cart full of items. And at the end of the sale, he said, "Hey, can you set this up for me?" Because there was no Geek Squad, right? Like where they can come to your house and set things up. And from there, he gave me his address and it said Miami Beach. So I'm here. I live in, at the time, Miami Gardens, and my mom had never exposed me to Miami Beach. Like I had never gone there. And I'm sure when you think, when you think of Miami, you're looking at CSI Miami and all of these shows that highlight the beautifulness of Miami, but that's not where I grew up. I grew up in the hood. So yeah, so from there, I can remember it was a Saturday morning. I looked at his address, I put in the GPS, and I'm driving on the highway, I had never been on. And as I'm looking to my right, I'm seeing these huge cruise ships and yachts and the girls and the palm trees, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never been to this part of Miami. And I go up to his unit. He's on the 17th floor, and he's overlooking the entire marina and the ocean. And I set up his computer, his TV, his router, all of his technology. And at the end, one of his friends came in and says, "Wow, who set this up for you?" And he's like, "Andre did." He's like, "Can you come to my house?" So in a period of 6 months, the guy that I met at CompUSA is sending me all of his friends to like set up their computers and so forth. And one day, this guy calls, the guy I met at CompUSA, he calls me, he says, "Hey, Andre, I've been watching your work. All my friends are ecstatic about you. You're a hard worker, diligent. I didn't tell you this, but I'm a retired 41-year-old multi-millionaire. And I know you're going to school to become an English teacher, but I want you to pause on that. And I want to start a business with you." So I run home to my mom and I was like, "Mom, this is what this guy told me. What should I do?" And my mom, she's first Haitian American, first generation Haitian American. And she says, "Andre, this is why I came to the country. Do it. Go pursue that American dream." And we did it, and I didn't even know that much about IT. It was just what I learned at CompUSA. I wasn't going to school for computers. And just over that time, we had a great run. We had, it was for about 9 years, and fast forward 9 years later, my business card says, managing partner. My email address says vice president. But there was nothing actually that says partner, like that we were actually a partnership. So I go to my boss and I was like, "Hey, can we get something in writing so I can have some shares in the company and so forth?" And he said, "Yeah, no problem. Give me a couple of months and we'll get something in writing." So just to give you an idea, we had about 8 employees. We were doing over $1 million in sales. We were the kings of South Beach. Everybody know us. This is back in Windows 7 days where with blue screen and, you have to come and reinstall the operating system and things like that. And a couple of months later comes in and he asked me to close the door. And he said, "I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to let you go." It's like, "Let me go? What do you mean?" I work 7 days a week, 18-hour days, breaking my butt to grow this company. I mean, yes, he was the money man, but I was the one. He couldn't turn on the computer if the life depended on it. And Alessandro, after 9 years, this guy, he who I thought was my partner, basically fired me. And I found myself, now, what am I going to do? This is back in 2009. And this is, rock and roll days here in the States. As fast as you made the money was as fast as you spent it. This is right before the crash. And I had a mortgage. I had a 2-year-old son at home, and I'm like, what am I going to do with $100 in my pocket? I didn't even get my last paycheck from him. And I remember that quote from Rocky. Have you seen that movie before?
Oh,
Yeah. And there's a part where he says, it's not how hard you get hit, but it's how you get back up. And I said, you know what? I can do this myself. I had a crazy non-compete. So I wasn't able to go after any of my, the past clients. But I said, I can do this myself. And I went and I registered my company name and, moved back home to my mom's house. And I just bootstrapped and I just started the business. And now, fast forward 13 years later, we're one of the fastest growing cybersecurity IT companies in South Florida.
that is an amazing story, man. That's so cool, and it's very inspiring to hear as a fellow kind of founder and in the middle of kind of bootstrapping my own company and being able to see just like you said, when your back is against the wall, that's kind of when you have to perform. And I think that I'm a big firm believer in kind of everything happens for a reason, and like for where all the trials and tribulations made you into the person that you are in today. So that's an awesome story, man. I think that's probably one of my favorite founder stories I've heard so far. And but I am curious. I know. So would you say that your kind of passion from cybersecurity just became a passion because you just were so naturally good at it, or what was it that kind of sparked your interest into wanting to kind of pursue that route? Was it just the fact that it was just right there for you and you were able to kind of capitalize on it, or was it there any type of internal passion from that?
Well, working at CompUSA definitely sparked my interest because I was helping clients. If you remember the Linksys routers, and when Wi-Fi was just starting. So it really, I really like helping people. Hence, going back to becoming a teacher. But what I realized is that teaching, especially here in South Florida, was not going to be for me. I did an internship, and have you seen the movie Dangerous Minds?
I
With
have not.
Coolio? No, okay, but there's a movie and it basically portrayed the American school system, and it was not good, unfortunately. And from there, I was discouraged, and that's when I decided to pivot and go from teaching to technology because I wouldn't have as much headache. At least I thought, and also, and it would obviously pay a lot more. So that's kind of where I started to do the technology. I would actually say though is I'm more of a business person because I only have my A+ degree,
Mhm.
so my technology side, yes, I understand Active Directory and cloud and things like that, but and I did go back to school, but nevertheless, I'm more on the business side than on the tech side. Like I don't do the tickets and things like that.
Yeah, no, 100%. I feel like I'm exactly probably the same way. Like I always say that, and I've had some other conversations with founders and CEOs of cybersecurity companies, and what the common kind of reoccurring theme is that they didn't find cybersecurity; cybersecurity found them, right? And so
Right, right.
it's kind of like a similar to my story as well. I kind of came into it just from loving business and trying to find the market, or trying to be able to figure out exactly what market needed something. And so yeah, I think sometimes it's just the love for business that we do things too.
Exactly,
Um,
and that's what an entrepreneur is, right? They see the problem and then they say, okay, well, I see the problem, and in our case, the problem was clients getting ransomware or clients needing help setting up their office or everyday support, and then as business owners, we naturally figure out a way to monetize from that.
Exactly, exactly. Well, now I wanted to ask in terms of the trends that maybe you're seeing. I mean, you've been around in the industry for a little bit, so I know obviously this might be a broad question, but in terms of any trends that you're aware of right now that are happening inside the IT cybersecurity industry that maybe you wanted to touch on, or maybe let the viewers know of where we're kind of going.
Yeah, things have changed and cybersecurity threats are way up. Just two recent examples at the time of this recording. Here in South Florida, specifically the city of Fort Lauderdale, they just got a 1.2 million dollar phishing email that they fell for. So they just sent 1.2. I don't know if you've ever done business with the government, but like to get paid is hard, and for them just to like say, here you go, $1.2 million to the wrong vendor, and it was really a threat actor, a bad guy. So that's something big with phishing emails. Microsoft just recently was attacked, and they had a lot of issues on the technical side where a lot of emails were going through. So I think that I would say that's my number one thing. I think the statistic says that 94% of ransomware attacks are happening via email. And
Yep.
the reason is because they're going after the user. The user is that one person that you can, I always say you can do a fortress. You can have Fort Knox network and do everything. And all it takes is that user to click on that one email, and for that bad guy to be one step ahead of the good guy, and boom, all of your work has been, is gone.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think making that emphasis is on that. I had someone explain to me as like kind of like the human firewall, right? And
Mhm.
making sure that your end users are training, and making sure that they're not clicking on any links, and and if they are clicking links, they're being put in a protocol to get trained on, because like you said, you can have the best defense in the world, but all it takes is one mistake from a human error to let in a whole attack.
So it sounds like we're saying we need to just, if we got rid of the humans, then there would be no cyber.
Would solve a lot of our problems, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Well, cool. I wanted to kind of pivot now into your company, Ark Solvers, and I wanted to maybe ask you what your primary service offering is of Ark Solvers, because I see you guys do a couple of things, but what would you say that you guys are the best at and where you provide the most value for your customers?
Yeah, for us, I would say it's on the compliance side. So we do, one thing I always recommend to any business is that you have to have a niche. If you just say I do IT support, that's so generalized. So we focus on specifically financial services and also real estate and construction. And the reason is because those two industries are regulated, either regulated with the government, or they have some type of self-regulated where they have investors, and they both fall into the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. So if, for example, I needed to sell my service and you own the warehouse, you had a manufacturing business and you had a warehouse, I have to convince you that you need cybersecurity. You may just say, you know what? When something breaks, I have my cousin, he's going to the local university. He comes over, he knows a little computer science, and he can help me. But when you're dealing with industry that's regulated, either you're going to be buying from me or you're going to be buying from somebody else, cybersecurity services, but you are going to be buying from somebody. And I think that's why I would say, is our biggest differentiator, and where we see the most ability to make profits, because we go after industries where you have to use us.
That makes sense. And I am curious as to maybe some of the common challenges that your clients are maybe facing before working with you, and how do you kind of help them overcome those?
Yeah, so our biggest thing is educating the client, because as you know, well, at least here in in Florida, California may be a little better at this, but there is no regulation when it comes to cybersecurity. Someone can literally go to the local Staples or Kinko's, FedEx, and say, "Hey, make me a business card that says I'm a cybersecurity expert." And guess what? You're a cybersecurity expert. And then you go to networking events and, hey, I'm a cybersecurity expert, and someone hires you. And it's not like an attorney that has to go through the bar, or a doctor, a CPA that has to be, take the test and so forth like that. So I think that's one of the biggest things, because as customers are trying, clients know what they want, but they don't know when it comes to, on the cybersecurity and IT side, who to choose, because you can have someone like me that's wanting to charge you $3,000, but then the guy with the business card, and he's really a trunk slammer, but he's advertising himself as a cybersecurity expert, he undercuts me by 50%. The client, all they want is, hey, I just need my stuff working and know that you're doing it. So that's the biggest thing, is to educate clients and to differentiate myself from, I don't even want to call them competitors, but for lack of better words, competitors that are cutting corners and not truly doing and providing cybersecurity services.
That's a great point, because I think oftentimes what happens with these budgets, when you see IT and cybersecurity budgets, they usually tend to be on the smaller side of things, right? And so they're always trying to get the best deal per se, but a lot of these times is that if they're trying to get these best deals, they're leaving themselves out for a lot of exposure. And I had someone was telling me of a horror story where they didn't end up going with their company. They were like, oh, we wanted to do this cheaper alternative, then they had an attack, and then there was a breach, and then they ended up coming back, right? And then wasted all the money that from the breach. They had a reputation loss. I mean, so many things come with breaches that I think people aren't maybe aware of. And having those proper cybersecurity measures in place, maybe you won't see an ROI right away, right? But like if you look over a long term, if you are able to be defended from all these attacks, there's a definite ROI from having cybersecurity inside there, because it's not a matter of time. It's not like if I'll ever get breached. It's almost like a matter of time, and especially with this evolving market where we're seeing kind of threat actors becoming more sophisticated and with the use of AI as well.
Yeah.
It's crazy, right? So like you have to have something in place, and I'm curious to get your take on this as well. A lot of the times, a small, medium-sized business or a small business, oh, well, they won't go after me because, I'm a small business. They want to go after the bigger fish. And what we're seeing is like, that's not the case at all. And so I'm curious as to what you think about that.
Yeah, there's a saying I always say: you're not too small to get hacked. You're just too small to make the news.
I like that.
Companies left and right, 5 users, one. When these hackers are, they're basically what they call spraying and praying. They're just spraying to see who doesn't have the latest update on their firewall, who's still running Windows 7, who hasn't done their updates, and then they're praying, and then they're like, all right, hopefully we get somebody. They don't care your size. All they care is that you have money in your bank. Or even if you don't have that much money in your bank, but you have a contact list that they can now use to now try to mimic who you are and then use you for a point of entry or a bot or thing like that. So yeah, I've seen countless times where I walk into scenarios and it's like a horror story, but and you would think it would make the news, but it's just the news doesn't care about a 10-person manufacturing company in Miami. The only time you see cyber attacks on the news is if it's a government, or if it's government or public, and the only reason the public companies go on the news is because the customer experience is showing, like, hey, someone's website is not working, or because they themselves are regulated and they have their scheduled K8, I believe it's called, where they have to divulge that for their shareholders. But other than that, people are just sweeping it on the rug and like, all right, let's just pay, or let's just get through this and let's not talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it seems that people tend to prioritize cybersecurity after they have a breach, right? That's when they want to put everything up. Well, cool, man. I'm wanted to make a little bit of a pivot and ask you in terms of, we talked about it earlier. And, you talked about, you shared your story about kind of being a founder. I'm curious as what are some of the most common challenges that you experience with being a founder and bootstrapping your own company? And what would you say the some advice that you have to maybe people that are on their way or they're up and coming entrepreneurs? What would you tell them?
Yeah, so I follow. So my story is a little unique. So I follow the Dave Ramsey principle. If you've heard of him before.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So
Yeah.
so I live my life and my business debt free. So there's no funding, there's no VCs, there's the money in my debit account at Chase, and it's not really Chase. I just said Chase. So that's really helped me, because I could tell you, in many times in my businesses, like even when I went and got my office, many years ago, if I had a line of credit, or if I had that business credit card, I would have said, you know what, let's make this office look a little nicer. Let's replace the carpet and put nice towel. Well, that doesn't make any sense, because you're leasing it for 5 years, and after that, it's not yours anymore. So I really think that I was able to make very smart decisions with only using the money that was in my bank account. So to my advice to anybody listening that's looking to start their own cybersecurity company is that you don't need again, we're not a regulated industry. You may just need to get your LLC, couple $100, and then go to the local print shop to get some business cards. And I would just bootstrap it, and I would just start knocking on doors and using your contacts on LinkedIn and Facebook, and just just undercut the big guy like me, and just try to go after smaller fish. And I believe there's business for everybody. And there's clients that I prefer not to deal with because they don't meet our revenue size. So you can go after those clients. If a 2-person law firm call me, that's not my ideal client. but I would love to refer them to somebody just to make sure that they're taken care of. That would be one of my advices.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. And I think even what you were talking about earlier, when you kind of said about picking a niche and
Yes.
not servicing everyone, I think that that's a great point, and it's kind of something that I've taken um, to heart with my businesses because of the fact that when you do work with a similar type of persona, you're able to obviously deliver better results for them. You're able to kind of get a name within the industry. It's a lot easier for you to be able to replicate what you did for one customer and do it for the other one. So I think that that's very great advice that I think I see sometimes with cybersecurity companies is that like, oh, well, we service everyone. We are a small, medium sized business, 100 to 1,000 employees. We want to work with everyone. I'm like, well, like, as much as you want to do that, like, it's going to be harder for you to gain resonance within any type of market. And
Yeah. And one thing too, I would say with is, especially when you're technology, I would highly advise that you stay in your lane, because also something I see is that now you're doing cybersecurity, but then your client wants cameras, and all of a sudden you're now setting up cameras, and then now they want access control, and now you're setting up access control, and then now you're a master of none, right? Jack of all trades, master of none. And I found that staying in your lane is so important, because I mean the threats of cybersecurity, that itself is its own business, to make sure that you're up to date with everything that's going on.
yeah, it's a great point. And I wanted to ask in terms of, the sales and marketing challenges, what would you say that you see as some of the biggest challenges when it comes to sales and marketing within, cybersecurity companies?
Yeah, so we're a small company. We have 10 employees. So I don't have a huge marketing budget. We probably do about 5% of our gross revenue for marketing. So if you look at my Facebook or my LinkedIn and things like that, it's usually me or my assistant that's going to networking events. So what I'm trying to say is I don't have the big budget for pay per click and for Facebook ads and LinkedIn. So I've been just trying to do it all organically, and just trying to do networking events, because they one thing that I found in technology and cybersecurity is that I don't have to be the smartest guy. I just need to be likable. I need to be trustworthy, because people do business with people they know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
Not because you're the smartest. In fact, clients don't want to deal with that geeky tech guy talking all of that stuff that they don't understand, that just goes over their head. They want to know that they can call someone and they understand that with technology, stuff happened. Yesterday, not to pick on Microsoft again, but Microsoft had a blunder, and it was a big issue. Emails were going to spam, and then it was then blocking their accounts. That was a big issue. It was a Microsoft error. They fixed it, but the customer just wanted to know that you were aware of it, that you're taking care of it, and in plain English, you could explain to them, hey, this is what's happened, but we're taking care of it. Another thing too, just the second part of that answer is, clients want to deal with people with personality. And I think that's why we've been successful in our business, because when I go to networking events, I'm enthusiastic about my work, about my line of work that I do, but they love the fact that I'm personable. And I would say that's one of the differentiators, is that we don't speak geek. None of the people that I hire is the smartest people. And I say that lightly, but when I mean by smart, let me rephrase that. The people that I hire more on personality than talent, because I can teach the talent. I can't teach you to be personable and to communicate. And with cybersecurity now, it's not just hiding in a server room and you're not interacting with people. You're having to call your clients. You're having to verify that, hey, are you really traveling to South Africa, or is this something going on? Like, there's so much stuff that you're just not hiding in that closet anymore. So I think that's why it's so important that on the sales and marketing side, that you have to be personable, and you have to be able to be likable. But the problem is, you still need to spend money, and I don't think that's probably my biggest challenge, is that I'm not spending enough money, but I have to just do it other ways.
That's some great advice, though. I mean, I think that everyone can kind of take from that, because it's so important. If you are, if you have your own business and you're trying to obviously grow, you are the business, right? Like, you are the face of it, especially at the beginning, and
Right.
you have to be able to be likable. You have to be able to portray, obviously, somewhat of knowledge, but you don't have to be. People don't expect you to know every single little, detail of every single little outcome. So I think it's important to have that personable side of you and show the fact that you are human at the end of the day. And I think that, like you said, people
Yes.
buy from people, and so it's a great. One of my mentors gave me that advice in terms of even when it comes to retention, right? When it comes
Mhm.
to having a client for a while, the relationship is so important, and that is what's going to be able to weather the storm. In terms of if there's ever some type of issue that arises, when you have a relationship with someone, that they are more keen to being able to want to stay with you, right? And communication on that side of things as well. So I think that goes hand in hand, is really important. Business advice is like being just a human, right? Like, and I think a lot of people sometimes forget that.
Yes, I mean, we have 50 plus clients, and I make it a point to, they may not all schedule with me, but I make it a point every 3 months. I'm doing what is called quarterly business reviews. I'm having conversations with them. I'm doing it with, I give them an option. Hey, if you want to do it with Zoom, or I can come and meet you. But I don't want it to be where the only time you see me, the owner, is when there's a big problem, or I'm coming to you because I need you to spend money with me. I
Yeah,
want it to really be that relation.
that's smart. That's really smart. And maybe one of the last questions I did want to ask you. Well, I have maybe two more because I'm
No, no,
curious
go
to
ahead.
get
You're
your
good.
insights on. I want to maybe break down a little bit of the mindset that you have, because I always like to kind of ask people in terms of mindset and how important you think that it obviously is in business, and what are some of the things that you would recommend someone to kind of adopt, or like what are really good beliefs for someone to adopt to kind of have that success.
Yeah. So the first thing is, have you heard of the word head trash?
I have not.
So head trash is basically thinking that you're not good enough. You're not smart enough. Your techs aren't good enough. Your techs aren't smart enough. Maybe that your prices are too high. All of that is head trash. So it's the saying of surrounding yourself with being the surrounding yourself with people that are like 5 steps ahead of you in that aspect. So one of the things that I do is, if you look at my entire team of 10 people, I am that C student, right? I'm the C student. I'm the guy who only has the A+ degree. I make sure I always hire smarter than me, more talented than me. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, you always want to make sure that you surround yourself so that you are not the smartest person in the room. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. With all that said, that way, the reason, so I have my COO, right? And she has her bachelor's degree. She's, partner in the company, etc. But I always feed off of her. Like, I'm the owner of the company, majority owner of the company, but she runs the company. There could be things that I don't necessarily agree with the final decision that she makes, but it's her final decision, and I'm running with that, and I'm going to support her on that decision. And because I know I'm not, I know I'm the C student. So going back to answer your question is, I just make sure that you don't hang around with people that are, the Sally. There's a word that's called the Debbie Downer, where it's like, yeah, the clients are leaving us. Yeah, the clients are leaving us too. And then you're just, just drinking everybody's sob story. So surround yourself with executives, with CEOs, people that's been in your shoes and been, done it further as well.
Yeah, that's great. I love that, because I think it's so important to my. There's an Italian saying that my dad always told me. He says go with people better than you and buy them new shoes. Like, meaning the fact of like, you have to go with people that are better than you, are able to teach you things that you would have not learned, or you could have learned yourself, but it would have taken you way longer. And I always think about the fact that it's like, if you can cut that time in half that you have to learn something, and learn it from somebody else, it's always important to take that route. And even if you have to pay money to get there, because
Yeah.
you're saving time, and you're saving that mistake. And to be able to have, I'm really lucky to have mentors that have taught me kind of like the route to take, and help me avoid mistakes. But I think that for people starting businesses, it's so important to kind of go with people that are better than you and be able to learn from them. And I think you make a great point to that as well. Surround yourself with just people who are positive, uplifting, not people that are going to bring you down.
Right. Yeah. Mentors and coaches, right? That's what it's about.
Yeah. Well, great, man. I do. I mean, we touched on a lot, so I mean, I am curious if there's anything that else you wanted to leave with the viewers in terms of what you've learned over your career. Maybe one nugget of advice that we can just throw out there before we wrap this thing up.
Delegate your work. If you're still doing tickets, if you're still, going and driving to job sites, we live in a gig economy world now. There should be no reason why you're still doing your bookkeeping, no reason why you're still trying to figure out your Facebook ads and graphics. There's no reason why you should be helping. I mean, we live literally in a worldwide economy. So if you can't afford something here in your city because the cost of living is so high and the rate is so high, then look at another state, look at another country to get your graphics or whatever is done. But there should be no reason why you're doing something. You should delegate anything. $10 an hour jobs, $15 an hour jobs. You, the CEO, you're not a $15 employee. So you need to give that stuff to other people to handle.
That's great, man. That's great. And why don't we? What's the best place for people to reach you if they wanted to maybe work with Ark Solvers? What would be the best place to kind of reach out to you guys? Is it on LinkedIn? Is it through your website?
Yeah, all of the above. So Reginald Andre, Reginald Andre, and yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. I actually, I know we're running out of time, but all of my friends on LinkedIn are also my friends on Facebook. That's a marketing strategy that I have as well.
There you go.
Maybe another time I'll give you the back end to that. But
Yeah.
and then our website is arksolvers.com,
Well, I'll
ARKSOL.
put those in the link as well. I'll
Awesome,
put those
thank you.
in the bio so people can check those out. And yeah, man, thanks so much for joining us today. If you guys did enjoy this podcast, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe as well. Go give Andre a follow. Thank you so much for sharing your story. You have a phenomenal story, and it's truly inspiring to hear from another founder. Just seeing your story and your progression. So definitely keep doing what you're doing, man. We appreciate you for coming on.
All right, thank you so much.